Well, welcome to Peers on Demand. This is Rocky Romero, and it's my pleasure and excitement to be able to introduce you, Carl Seidman. Well, Carl,
Thank you very much, Rocky.
glad to have you here. So let's get started. I wonder if you could share a little bit about yourself and your business.
Sure. So my business takes several different approaches to business and strategy improvement. One prong of my business is specifically in management consulting. I help small and mid-sized enterprises with strategic execution, financial planning, and ultimately kind of take the role of either an outsourced CFO or an interim CFO. Many of the companies I work with don't need somebody on a full-time basis. Oftentimes they can afford somebody on a full-time basis, so I'm able to provide to them the talent that they need at a price that they can afford. And oftentimes just on an as-needed basis. The second part of my business is also financial and strategic related, but it focuses on corporate training. So many of my clients in the corporate training area are mid-sized and oftentimes large Fortune 500 companies. Specifically, what I offer to them is what I would call FP&A mastery. I go in oftentimes for 2 or 3 days. I sit down with anywhere from about a dozen up to maybe 60 people. And I give them what they absolutely need to know in a short amount of time to become more effective in the FP&A function. And together, those are really the main parts of my business, helping companies improve their finance functions and helping financial professionals become a lot more indispensable in their roles.
Exactly. So, Carl, you've got two different distinct deliverables. I'm wondering if you have a specific person or C-level that you'd like to be able to connect that would be ideal for you.
Sure. So again, given that there are two major prongs of my business, on the consulting front, the best person for me to be in touch with is a business owner or a senior financial leader who's basically looking to bring improvement into their financial and strategic operations and doesn't really know where to look. Again, I consider myself to be kind of a right-hand man, outsourced CFO. So anybody who's in the position of bringing or needing that kind of talent in, that would be my point of contact there. As it relates to the training, oftentimes my points of contact are directors or VPs of learning and development or learning and education. Sometimes they are the senior director or senior manager of financial planning and analysis in the organization. And sometimes it's simply HR, somebody who wants to bring training and engagement to some of their new hires, interns, MBAs, and even some of their more experienced people.
So, Carl, I wonder if you might be able to share a story of someone that you work with, a business, without naming names, somebody that receives tremendous value by working with you.
Sure. Well, if I can maybe just tell a couple of short stories on the consulting front, one of my most celebrated client achievements, there's a company that I work for in the construction industry who really didn't have tremendous visibility into their financial forecast. They were going through a very difficult time and were in fact on the verge of collapsing. And what I was able to do as an interim or outsourced CFO talent was help them forecast, help them model a profit and loss statement, balance sheet, cash flows, and use a whole assortment of different scenarios and simulations to say, well, what if we were to take on these various projects and these geographies? Can we model it and see what our business looks like in the future? Prior to me getting involved with them, they were not able to have that kind of visibility. And ultimately, being able to forecast and model their business in all different ways allowed them to pick the right projects at the right time in the right geographies. And that company was able to increase its profitability substantially over about 2.5 years. On the training front, I actually was just recently doing a program with a Fortune 500 company in Chicago. And this company, very large business, obviously. But one of the challenges that they were having was with this very large FP&A group that they had, which was based all over the country. Everybody was doing things differently. Everybody was speaking different languages, modeling differently, not really employing universal best practices. And so through this program, I've actually worked with them now 4 times over the last couple of years. But through the program that I've done with them is I've given them a whole assortment of over 20 best practices that everybody within FP&A should be exercising, so that when one person opens up somebody else's model, they know what it does and they can make changes to it as they need on the fly. I've just been really impressed that they have rolled out what they call a best practices modeling series. And so every quarter, this company brings in some of the best business and financial models that have been seen throughout their company. They share it with others within the FP&A group, and they all learn from it. But what was just really invigorating to me was this all began with the program that I did for them, again, starting about 2 years ago, and we've done 4 programs over the last 2 years.
Well, that's exciting to be able to help and participate and be able to bring tremendous deliverables. So I'm curious, if someone wanted to get a hold of you and connect with you, what's the best way to reach you or connect with you?
Sure. So there's a few ways. One, I'm very active on LinkedIn. So if somebody wants to reach me, they can certainly do a search for Carl Seidman, CarlSeidman on LinkedIn. I will certainly respond, connect very promptly. The second way is, as you can see through my website. My website is CarlSeidman.com, carlseidman.com. And then finally, I can be reached through email, typically very responsive. I can be reached at carl@seidmanglobal.com. Again, it's Carl@seidmanglobal, which is the name of my company, .com.